End of. So what we got to do? We've got to go on. We've got to go onto the YouTube, right? And like for 40 minutes of absolute bliss, right? Because we'll go to 11 o'clock today, right? And don't listen to Mungo Jerry in the summertime, 1970. After this, just don't. And maybe don't even listen to Men Without Hats Safety Dance. Just don't do it. Promise me you will do. No, don't do it.
I solemnly swear I won't.
I solemnly swear. And what we're going to do, we're going to do random now. We're going to share, right? We've got to do. You know what we've got to do? We've got to do a bit of caring and sharing. You know that is. You know what they always say in school? Caring and sharing every day. You know what my mum used to say? Every day you get better and better. I think she lied. My mum did lie. You know, she just. I think it was like a confidence thing. My mum used to keep me locked in a cupboard, and she threw away the key. And the problem was when she did that, right? There was no spare key.
How did you escape?
I didn't, because I'm still in the room. Because the room is in my head. You see what I did there?
Oh.
You see, in Corinthians in the Bible, right? Because I know you read the Bible. I know you're really religious, right? In Corinthians in the Bible, there's a quote that says, in my house there are many mansions. Is that right? In my house?
Yeah, I think so.
In my house there are many. Yeah, there is. So there's a mansion in your head, which is quite a lot to take in, really. Your head must be something.
No,
so in other words, what you've got little people wandering around your head. And that is called straight line philosophy.
If there were a mansion in my head, I don't think I'd be alive because of the weight and the size of it. I think
no, technically, no. It's like the TARDIS.
Yeah, but the TARDIS, that's physically and being scientifically proven incorrect and not possible.
No. And I'm warning you, right? We do not criticize the TARDIS. That's end of. Right. So what we got to do? We got to go to this now. We got to just show it, right? We got to show the Roman stuff as it is, right? Now look at that! Isn't that so amazing? Do you know that is just the best thing ever? When I was your age, which was 5 years younger than you, because I know you're 28.
Yeah.
When I was your age, about 10. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. I actually went to Caerwent and I fell in love with this wall. Can't you fall in love with this wall?
It's an all right wall, you know. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, it is. Oh my god, I'm showing the Why am I showing you the Weebly account?
I don't know.
I don't know. Oh, by the way, Ghost Walk this Friday. It's a really frightening one.
Where is it?
We even have real ghosts passing through people. Right, now this is. Look, I'm the one interfering with this lecture, not you, so shut up.
No.
Right, so this is the Roman city of Caerwent, right? Look at that. Now, all the brown bits, right, are all the bits of the wall that still stand. They are still there today. All those bits of the wall. Isn't that amazing, right? And the bits of wall at Caerwent that we've been looking at are these ones down here. These amazing. Oh, look, this plan is so amazing. Look at that. You can get lost.
No way. No. Is that John's house just there? 3S. Yeah, John's house. You know, 3S. You see 3S?
Where?
Yeah, down there. Just by the bottom left. 3S. Yeah. XVI.
Yeah.
That's John's house. Yeah, I built that house and the wall.
Well, did
that's Sarah's house from up the street.
Do you know what you're talking about? Because nor do I.
No, I don't know what I'm talking about.
But anyway, what we've got, this is the Roman city of Caerwent. And the reason why I fell in love with it, right, is because I'd never ever seen, hang on a minute, I'd never ever seen a Roman wall like this. That is absolutely spectacular. That's like the south wall of Caerwent. And the amazing thing about that wall, right, is the height it still stands. Now, if you took away the earth from around it, right, and you sort of stand up against there, so you've got 1 meter, 2 meters, 3 meters, 4 meters, 5 meters, 6 meters, 7 meters. If you took away the earth down below, that wall would be still standing about 10 meters in height. So that's quite amazing. That's quite an amazing bit of wall. You stand underneath it and you look up, right? But the average person is about 2 meters in height. So you look up, right? And you're looking at meters and meters of wall that is still there today. And this wall itself, one massive thing about this wall, being that it's a massive wall in itself. So everything here is massive, right? And this is the best preserved in my book. This is the best preserved, like this, without houses around it, Roman wall for a town anywhere in Britain. There are actually Roman fort walls that are more impressive than this, but this is a town wall, a domestic town wall. And do you know the reason why this wall was actually built in the Roman period in the 300 years AD? Because the people who built the wall wanted to build a wall because there was another town down the road that had a wall around it. So in other words, they built the wall, right, because they wanted to impress the neighbors. So, you know, look at the size of my wall, right? And the other one said, hey, look at my wall. My wall is even better than yours, right? So this is what we're talking about. So they're building these walls to impress people, right? They're not actually building them for defense. They are actually building them for defense in some places. Because when you think about the Romans, right, remember, this is a town wall, not a fort wall. We've got to really express that. This is where people lived, not the soldiers. This is where people live. And Caerwent itself, if you've never been there, is a little bit north of Chepstow. It's the eastern side of Newport, and it's south of the M4. So as you're going along the M4, it's over there somewhere in the south, and then as you go over the bridge into England, it's sort of you would have gone around it, right? So this itself is along the old A48, and the old A48 is actually the same road that runs through the Vale of Glamorgan. So the road that you would take to go to Cowbridge, for example, is the A48. So this very same road, the A48, goes all the way through the middle of this. So at one point, you could set out basically from Chepstow way. You could walk all the way through to Caerwent. You could walk all the way then through to Newport, then you could walk through to Cardiff, then you could walk through to Cowbridge, and you could keep heading towards Bridgend. So this was the old ancient highway. This is where people have walked for actually, when we think about roads, right, when we think about the road that goes through Caerwent, it existed before the Romans ever used the road, because this is a thing. Everyone used trackways and roads, and they always have done. And the thing is about these roads is that this road is such an ancient road, and it goes through the middle of Caerwent. So if we go back to the little bit of a plan, right? So if we go back to that plan, right? If it comes up, that road there is actually the A48, and it's that sort of ancient roads that is still with us today. So when you travel to Cowbridge on the road, right, when you go shopping with your nan or your mum, or you've been to Cowbridge a few times, actually, I know you have, and if you go along that road, that's sort of an ancient alignment, and people have always gone along that road. Anyway, back to Caerwent that we're talking about. Caerwent, all the little black lines on the map show you what archaeologists know about Caerwent. Now, they've excavated some of these walls and structures involving Caerwent, and what you've got buildings such as, oh, look at that, you've got a basilica. A basilica is where people would have sat down and met. It was the, it's like we're doing this on Zoom today. Basilica would be the place that people would sit down and they would talk to people, right? That's the basilica. The basilica was a massively important place. It was a place that people met to decide justice. They met to decide what we're going to do with the road. Are we going to pay money out on the road next week, or are we going to use it for a celebration? And you know what actually happens to have most of the time they actually used it in celebrations, and actually building this absolutely amazing wall around Caerwent instead of focusing on the road, right? So that's one of the things. And even though I've been talking about this sort of A48, it wasn't well maintained. There was potholes and all sorts in it. People were more interested in building the wall around Caerwent to impress the neighbours. They wanted to sort of, yeah, our wall is better. And actually, it was such a good wall that this is still one of the greatest sets of Roman wall standing anywhere in Britain. For the civilians, and actually it's very, very impressive, and that's why I fell in love with it. Now these things here, this little thing here, if we go back to the plan, right, if we move up on the plan, these little things here, these towers, interesting enough about the towers, they were added nearly 50 years later, because the people down the road added towers on their town as well. It was all about competition. Our towers are more impressive than your towers. Our wall is more impressive than your wall. And the other thing as well is, in Roman towns and cities, everything was organized, right? You had the road set out where a road. You had a east-west road, which is the road going there, the one through the middle. You had a south-north road, and so you had basically 4 gateways. Actually, lots of Roman towns had more gateways than 4, but principally they had 4 gateways: south to north, east to west. And even when the town was sort of facing the sea, they even had a gateway there, even though it didn't go anywhere, because the Romans were obsessed with building gateways. Right, they may have had gateways, but they didn't necessarily always have walls around it. So as you would be entering Caerwent in the earlier period, 100 years before the wall was built, you'd see a gateway, and you'd see a bank and a ditch around the outside, but you wouldn't see a wall. So the gateway was just to show off you're actually entering Caerwent. This is where we're going. You're entering and leaving Caerwent. One other thing about the Roman world is where you lived was the land of the living. I know that sounds so obvious, because outside the town is the land of the dead. Because what would usually happen is that alongside the roads that would lead into a Roman town, and Roman forts as well, any sort of Roman settlement, you would have mausolea. Mausolea are actually where people were buried, and these were very ornate and very rich type of structures. And when you look at these sort of the way these cities are organized, in regards to Caerwent, you can go to Caerwent today and you can actually see this here, which is in V11. We'll actually explain what all these numbers mean in a moment. In V11, you can actually see a Roman shop front, which is great. Over here, you can see a Roman townhouse, like a villa, like a sort of normal place where people lived. This shop front down here is where people would sell stuff onto the main frontage on the A48. And then they would live in the back part of the building with a like open courtyard and sort of rooms around it. And this basilica, what you would find with the basilica was it was very, very well organized, and it would look into a central forum area. So this was like all these really nice, big, thick slabs of sandstone and limestone would be sat there, right? And this is where they would have meetings like we're having today, except with no Zoom. And then over by here, you've got a temple, and very, very important, the temple for religious reasons. Lots of Roman towns, cities, forts, they always had lots of temples, but eventually Christianity took over and things were very, very different. And so all the little brown areas are the bits that you can actually see in Caerwent today if you ever get there, and it'd be great. It's a wonderful experience. So what we need to do, we need to look at more of these images. And if you look a little bit at the detail, right, you can see the wall there, and you can actually see this added to it. And the towers have just been sort of stuck onto it. And what they would do, they would sort of whitewash it. Their whitewash is basically lime mixed with water, quite thick, and you would just put it on with a brush, one layer, and then the following year you put another layer on. Every few years you put this whitewash on, and usually the whitewash on the walls was so thick that it was so solid you could knock at it as if you were knocking at plastic. So it was really, really thick, and the walls would stand out. See, the other thing as well is you've not only got these really impressive walls and really impressive towers, but from a distance you would see these walls gleaming. They would light out like a big lighthouse. So you would think, oh my God, look at that wall over there. My God, it's so massive. It's so impressive. It's so high. And it's the tallest thing you would have ever seen. Lots of people, they would, and if you'd have actually gone into Caerwent back then, 300 years AD, with the wall added, and this beautifully whitewashed wall, 50 years later, just under 50 years later, 348 years AD, what's 2 years, 50 years later, the towers would be whitewashed as well. And not only would these walls be towering, there would be crenellations, like castellated crenellations on top as well, and there would be sort of flags flying, not in the modern sense, but sort of poles with sort of tapering, sort of various different things fluttering on them. And this is what you would see. And when I said this would be the most, as somebody back in the day, most things that people built back in the day, would the room that I'm actually sat in now is like, you've got 1, 2, 3, it's no more than 4 meters high. Right, so if you had a roof to this, it might be maximum about 8 meters in height. Imagine a 10, 11, 12 meter tall wall, and the basilica building that we've mentioned inside, where they'd have all those meetings, right? That basilica building itself would be huge. And the bathhouses, for example, in Caerwent, another Roman town, it was absolutely huge. And these things themselves would be the most impressive, the tallest, the biggest things that you'll have ever seen in your life. And likely the only thing. Thank you very much for my tea. And the Romans didn't have tea, by the way, because mind you never know. They would have had leaves dunked in water, and they may have added milk. So then again, cheers. Let's have a cup of tea in memory of these Romans. So this is what we're talking about with these Roman towns. We're talking about, they wanted to impress. They wanted to tell you and me that they were here to stay. However, we're talking about the Romans. The people who actually built this city were actually the local people. They were doing it because they wanted to impress the Roman government. They wanted to impress the other towns. Most of the people who lived in Caerwent were like you and me, people from the local area. They weren't sort of Romans from Italy. They just had 1 or 2 Romans in there who said, oh, why don't we build a wall this week to impress those down the road? Why don't we use money to trade with? And Roman money to trade with, and all these different things. So it's like it's more like Roman influence rather than Romans being everywhere. So this is what we're talking about. Most of the people in Cymru, Wales back then were actually native born. They just decided that they would dress in togas, and they just decided that they would actually build walls like this. But lots of people just remained doing what they were doing, and they continued to do it for many more 100 years after that, without much connection with the Romans at all. So that's very important to actually put that across. When in history and archaeology, when you come across terms like the Roman period and the Viking period and so on, what we're actually talking about is a period in time. Let's just see if we can. Oh, again, looking at more of these bits of the wall. So this is the other side of that wall tower that we've been looking at, and some of it is in a really good state of preservation. Others where people have stolen stone to be used in modern buildings since. So that's really, really important to think about that. And if we sort of have a little bit more look at more of these images, let's go to, let's type in here, Caerwent, Basilica. That sounds really good, doesn't it? Grand Basilica. There you go. Now this is that basilica that I was just talking to you about, and this is what a basilica looked like. It was a very, very impressive building. So you can imagine being back in the Roman period, and this is that big building at the back, and you can see the heights of these people. So that guy is not 2 meters in height. He's going to be a maximum of 6 foot in height. So if you increase his height and you look all the way to the top of the roof, you're talking about 12, 13 meters in height, and this was massively impressive. And that yard there, where we know that it probably more or less looked like this. Because of the archaeological evidence that's been left in the ground, the massively impressive archaeological evidence that's been left in the ground. So what we then do is we move going back to, let's have a look at one of the better images here. Hang on a minute. There's lots of images, but not the right one I want to show you. Hang on a minute. Oh, hang on a minute. Let's just try and hang on. Let's just try and see if we get something else here. There, bingo, nice. Now this is part of the floor when they were excavating it at Caerwent, and you see those big tiles there. That's the flagstone floor, and all the little bits of blue plastic. When the archaeologists were excavating there, they put a blue plastic cover on it, and unfortunately, the blue plastic cover has actually deteriorated and rotted away. But what you can see is that these here are the tiles that people would have stood on, people would have sat on, they would have had market stalls, and there here is actually part of a drain, right? So we've got a drain going across the site, and this is really, really impressive that we've actually got drainage there still intact, and the tiles and all the other rooms around the outside. And this building itself, what's happened is over the years it's collapsed, and lots of things have been taken away. But that there is all part of what would have supported those great columns that we've actually seen an image of. If we get rid of that a minute, hang on. So the building we're talking about now is, hang on, if we just sort of go back up there. Oh, hang on. We go there, we go there, we go over there today. Like, this is a basilica where they excavated. So they've only excavated about a third of the basilica. So a lot more is under the ground. But rather interestingly enough, when for years and years before they actually started excavating the basilica, this little bit of the wall here was actually a wall that was used in somebody's garden, and they didn't actually know it was part of a Roman wall. So that actually stood out on the surface and was really, really impressive. And people would think, oh my God, is this part of a Roman wall? It turned out to be a Roman wall. It stood there for many, many years. But big chunks, as we know, as we've already said, big chunks of the basilica had been taken away for the construction of new buildings in Caerwent. People have lived in Caerwent for probably well over 2,000 years, and it's still used, and it's got a pub, and it's got all these wonderful things that make Caerwent today. So what I want to do is have a little chat about the church at Caerwent. So if we talk about Caerwent Roman temple, and Stav, if you don't mind, we're gonna be finishing today by 11, and it's a little bit of a shorter class, but I'll explain more next week. Anyway, so that there is the archaeologically excavated remains of a Roman temple, right? And let's just have a little look what this Roman temple would have looked like. So Roman temple, if we sort of go back there, and Roman temple, if we type in illustration, let's just see if we can get an idea what this Roman temple would have looked at. Hang on a minute. Right, okay, Roman illustration. Okay, here we go. And well, it didn't look anything like this one here, and it didn't look anything like this one, but it looked like that. Right, it would have looked, it would have looked something like this. This is what the Roman temple of Caerwent would have actually looked like. And this is actually an illustration from a chap by the name of Alan Sorrell. And Alan Sorrell was a great illustrator He was a great illustrator in the 1940s and 1950s and beyond and before. And he would look at buildings from any period, castles, Roman buildings from any period. And what he would do, he would create these beautiful reconstructed illustrations, just like the one you can actually see in front of you. But there's one thing about this temple, and the thing about this temple is that when it was actually first constructed, they had no idea that Christianity was coming. They had no idea that that there would be one religion. And what happened later on was that there's that wonderful illustration there. What happened later on, if we go back again and we sort of we look at the plan and we look at the aerial photography. What happened later on is that they decided to convert it into a church. We think that they converted it into a church. We don't really know. And it was associated with a local saint called Tathan, which is very similar to, which is probably the same saint that is responsible for the village in the Vale of Glamorgan near Lantworth Major called Saint Tathan. So Tathan itself was a local Christian saint. And what happened was this, was that I'm going to show you a little bit of detail, right, and just discuss this place. And I'm going to type in, and here we go. This guy, Emperor Constantine the Great. Constantine the Great was great. He definitely was. This guy here, let's just show you. This is Constantine the Great, right? He died in the year 337, and he became the first Christian emperor, right? And what we're going to do, he's portrayed as this great Christian emperor, right? Now, how did he convert to Christianity, right? How did this guy convert to Christianity, right? Do you want me to give you the answer? I will. He was married, and his wife converted to Christianity, and it got to the year 337, and Constantine the Great was really, really ill. And so what we're going to do, we need to get in Constantine the Great, and there we go, Helen, who was his wife. And you can, what happened is that Constantine the Great said, I am not converted to Christianity, right? I'm a pagan. I like being a pagan. Do you like being a pagan, Staff?
What's a pagan?
Oh, that's a good one. Right. A pagan is somebody who's not Christian. A pagan is somebody who's not a Jew. A pagan is somebody who's not a Muslim or Hindu or a Sikh or a Buddhist. Basically, a pagan believes in lots of different gods, right? So a pagan might believe in Zeus, ancient Zeus from Greece, or a pagan might believe in the Roman god Mithras, which was a very strange Roman god. Or a pagan might be somebody who actually believes in druids. Or a pagan might be somebody who believes in the old gods of Scandinavia, like Thor, the thunder hammer. And a pagan is somebody who basically isn't Christian, right? Believes in lots of other things other than Christianity, right? So that's what a pagan is. So you can imagine Constantine the Great is there, and his wife's over there. She's saying, you've got to convert to Christianity. And he's saying, look, I'm dying, right? I'm dying. And she said, oh, convert to Christianity. And he said, for the last time, right? I might be dead next week. I don't want to convert to Christianity. I've been quite happy being a pagan. What's wrong with you, woman? Anyway, on the days about to die, right? His wife comes in and she says, do you want to convert to Christianity? And he said, hang on a minute, right? I'm just about to die, and you want me to convert to Christianity? Yeah, you convert to Christianity, and I'll stop nagging you. Look, I don't want to convert to Christianity. And then she takes his drink off him. And he says, hang on a minute. I'm just about to die. I'm the emperor of Rome, right? You keep nagging. You keep telling me what to do over and over again. I want my drink. Anyway, a slave comes over and gives him a drink. So he's slurping away. Not at tea with milk and honey, but he's having a drink, right? And the next thing, his wife comes in and she says, if you convert to Christianity, right, you'll be the first person to sit alongside God, right? You'll go through the pearly gates and you can be alongside God himself, right? And you can look over your empire from heaven. And he said, hang on a minute, right? I've got all these gods. I've got my household gods. I've got these gods that look after me. You know, I don't need to convert to Christianity. And she said, oh, go on, do it for me. Do it for me as a special favor. Anyway, he's dying now. He's got his last breath. She says, convert to Christianity. He said, for God's sake, I will convert to Christianity. I will become a Christian, right? Now stop nagging. And on that moment, he died. So on the moment of his death, he converted to Christianity, right? Because his wife wouldn't stop nagging, right? By the way, Stav, never meet a woman who nags you all the time, but they do anyway, so don't worry about it. But anyway, the point is, he converted to Christianity on his deathbed, and he became the first emperor of the Roman world to become a Christian, right? And that meant that Christianity was finally recognized as a religion in the Roman world, right? Like all these pagan religions, Christianity started off as a pagan religion, but it became a proper religion on his deathbed because the emperor died and he said, I am now a Christian, right? It was officially recognized as a religion within the Roman Empire. And what that simply meant, Stav, was this. What this simply meant is that all pagan temples were eventually converted into churches, or they were demolished and so on. So what with this itself, this temple that we don't know who it was dedicated to, there was a local sort of clergyman, there was a local Christian called Tathan, and this was then dedicated. Basically, when dedicated is when you know, you got a building and somebody comes along and says, you know, what's this building about? They said, oh, we're going to dedicate it to the local Christian called Tathan, right? So this became the church of Tathan, right? And therefore it became a Christian church. By the year 400 years AD, you could no longer be a pagan. Everyone had to be a Christian. It was illegal to be a pagan. So within 60 years, right, everyone in the Roman Empire was a Christian. Everyone else outside the Roman Empire was not a Christian, but now everyone technically, no, I'm not a Christian. Nor am I. Nor's Brian. Brian's not a Christian either. Are you a Christian, Stav? No, he's not a Christian either. But most people were actually Christian. It was illegal not to be a Christian. Hey, don't, Stav, don't tell anyone you're not a Christian, all right? Shh. Right? Because it's not good. Secrets, right? So this is a thing, right? So you legally you have to be a Christian, right? So this meant that this building was converted to Christianity. And it probably meant that Caerwent itself was the place to be in regards to Christianity, right? So what I want to do now is for the last 5 minutes today, well, we got very excited about this guy Tathan and Constantine the Great, and I think the next thing to do would be to look at these shops here. So as you go through the main high street, there's these shops in Caerwent. So we'll have a quick look at those now. So Caerwent Roman shops. Caerwent Roman shops. Here we go. Let's get these images up there. Right now, this is a rather interesting building. And if we can get one that shows everything, hang on a minute. Every day. Oh, I think that's it. There we go. that's what it would have been like. So if you would have gone through Caerwent back in the day, this is another one of Alan Sorrell's plans. So what would have happened in Caerwent itself? So if we get some of the remains, hang on. Oh God, no, we don't want that. We've already done that. We've already done that. If we go there, and we go, we don't want that. We don't want that. What about this over here? Right, we don't want that. We've already done that one. Where's this little plan gone? Oh yeah, there we go. So if we move along there and we go right between these archaeological remains and there was a little street. So if we go, that's the little street. So what would have happened on the main high street? That most back in the day, people used to live in the back of the building, and in the front of the building they would have had a shop. So they would have sold anything from local beer, or they would have had imported wine, or they'd have made their own wine, because we know that people were able to grow wine in Britain at that stage because it was a little bit warmer. Parts of Britain, they grow wine in the south as well. And there's actually a place in Wales, several places in Wales that grow wine now because it's a little bit warmer. But they may have actually sold pottery. They may have actually sold imported dates. They may have actually sold barley to be planted in fields. And actually there was a form of McDonald's back then as well. So what you do, somebody would have a bread oven outside, and they would have another oven, right, and they would have heated up meat. So you may have taken some bread and you may have taken some meat, put that meat in the bread and sort of other things with it, and what have you got? You've got a burger. So we do know that they had fast food outlets associated with these buildings in this wonderful world. So again, it was very similar. These Roman towns and cities were very, very similar in many ways to modern towns and cities. And this is why I find Caerwent absolutely massively fascinating. So what I'm going to do now, before we leave this today, and we could have another look at Caerwent, we're going to have another little look at this wall down here, and you've got to say it. Evan's got to say, Carl, you've got 2 minutes. Go on.
Cal.
Yeah.
Cal.
What?
Cal. We only got like 2 minutes left. Cal. Yeah. Cal.
Yeah, okay. Can you just let me do this?
No, Cal. Listen now. We've only got 2 minutes left.
All right. Look, okay. Just let me do it. Tell you what, he's so annoying, that guy. Just.
Oh, by the way, Cal.
Yeah.
Cal. We got 2 minutes left.
Yeah, okay. Just let me do it.
All right, Cal. All right.
What an absolute numpty. But I tell you what, look at that there. That's another one of the towers.
I must remind you though, we've only got 2 minutes.
No, we haven't got 1 minute left now, thanks to you. So look at that there. This tower's been added, right? And you can see the wall there, and you can see there that little point there that they've just added onto it. They just sort of gently added onto the wall. So this and all these stones and stuff are the typical Roman building blocks. And again, if you ever do go to Caerwent, just have a look at this wall, and just it's brilliant. There's a place called the Coach and Horses. You can have a really nice plate of chips and sauce on with them, maybe a bit of battered fish, and you can have a glass of Coca-Cola. Not that I'm a fan of beer or lager, so I'd just have a glass of Coca-Cola, or yeah, that's what I do, or a J2O. So this is really worth it. And when Roman civilization started to fall apart in about 410, 420, 430 in Britain, these types of towns and cities held out for a little bit longer, thinking and the idea and the dream of ancient Rome. Because in many ways, Stav, Rome was a dream. It was an idea. It was something and a place you wanted to be, but a place that you saw around you in ancient Britain. And when the ideas of Rome drifted away, these walls are still with us today. And that actually rhymed. When the ideas of Rome drifted away, the walls of ancient Rome have stayed. Anyway, let's just shut up. Right, Stav. Are you able to do next week as well?
I should be able to, yes.
Well, I think Evan will be with us next week. Don't forget to tell tell the wonderful woman Roz to put the £6.50 in the account.
Got it.
Got it. Anything you want to ask, Stav, before I go?
No.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. No's as good as a dead dog to a cat wandering down the road with no legs.
What?
Yeah, I didn't know what that meant either. I didn't know what that meant either. Right. Anything else you want to ask before we go?
No.
Make sure you tell your nan about the Mug Nash Ghost Walk next week. And other than that, thanks for joining me today. And I will see you next week.
Yes. Goodbye.
Did you enjoy that today anyway?
Yes. Yes.
Good. So you should. All right then, Stav. I'll see you next week.
Okay, bye.
Take care. Look after yourself. Bye.
Ta-da.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.